All right. So, hello, anyone who's watching. This is uh, my Substack Spirit, and we're here today with Tom Trieu of Toomi, who's had a lot of artistic experience in the last few years, recording and releasing his own music and performing. So, welcome, Tom. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation.
Yeah, of course. So, I gave you the questions ahead of time, and we'll just see where things end up. So, yeah, what got you into making music, like since you started in the working world after college?
Yeah, I guess my story starts, with with a lot of people, like similar to a lot of people, I was writing songs, just for fun in high school, and I would like that's when I first got my first like MacBook, and I was like playing with GarageBand.
Mhm.
And it was kind of a dormant hobby of mine for a while. I think I was kind of like shy, or like I felt maybe a little embarrassed about the stuff I made in high school. Um, but then after I graduated college, a close friend of mine, Alex Togashi, he goes by Alex Togashi, his artist name,
Mhm.
and I was just at his house one day, and I knew he was kind of doing some music stuff, and he showed me just like I know he was like producing songs, and I was just curious, like how does that work? And he kind of took me into his little home studio, and I started to get a peek behind, like into how he does stuff, and we were just like messing around. I was playing with the guitar, and then he's like, "Hey, you should record that." And so we recorded like a little chord loop, and
Mm.
basically it's like a one thing led to another thing, and all of a sudden he's like producing this song for me. So we spent like I don't know, maybe 10 hours just like writing, and it was mostly like he let me kind of just lead the writing, but he was doing all like the things around it, like playing the bass, or we would put the drum loop on, and he just kind of let me do what I didn't know I really enjoyed doing, which is just listening to a rhythm or like a chord progression and then writing a melody. And yeah, we produced this sort of little demo at the end of it, and I was really excited about that. And I listened to it over and over again. It felt like super empowering. Like, oh, I can't believe, I can just make something, and it can just be recorded, and I can just have this file on my computer, and it's my voice and some of my ideas. So that's kind of how it started. And then um, we had that demo. I shared it with people. It ended up getting like reworked and put onto my first EP. What is the first EP called? Water Wings, like a little many years back now. I think during COVID. Um,
Mm.
and then from there, I just started to like learn the software, learn how to like I think my songwriting got a lot better because I was just playing with it, and it was a really playful like little side hobby that has now kind of grown into a sort of project that's called Toomi. Yeah, at the time I didn't even have the name Toomi or anything. I just
Mm.
had this little demo, and that was like a fun it's a fun memory. It was pure playfulness, which a lot of creatives talk about being really key.
Mhm. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that sounds very like organic and natural. And what was that first song called?
It was called Fragments. Yeah, it
Oh.
was called Fragments. Uh, yeah, I used a lot. I feel like I hadn't done a lot of creative stuff. I was pursuing like a sociology PhD at the time, and there's like an element of creativeness there and the writing, but not exactly like in college, for example. I did like poetry seminar, and I had this like side blog with poems that I used to like write and publish to nobody. But it was like part of my work, or like the things that I like doing. And I felt like it was a lot of latent energy and even ideas that I had been sitting on, that came out in that song. And then, I really, to this day, there's things I would like change. There's nothing I would change about it, but I think I've grown as like a songwriter, and like the type, and my taste has developed. But I still think there's a lot of the core of it is like a lot of stuff that's pretty core to like, I don't know, how I feel about how I like to express myself, and especially in the lyrics, I thought was a good avenue for me.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't know you wrote poetry as well. Because, yeah, for anyone watching who doesn't know how we're connected, like we both went to Pomona College at the same time, and we took fourth year, at least for me, it was in my fourth year, the Asian American literature since 2000
Hmm.
class. And yeah, that did have some poetry in it as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
you've been writing for
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There was like a little, yeah, there was like a little side blog thing that I had at the time with with another classmate of mine from Pomona, and we still posted it from time to time. But that was like, yeah, I do. That was part of
Mm.
my college around that time too. Yeah,
Oh, interesting. So then that's one of my questions always. I'm always curious about songwriters because like I don't know which comes first for people, like the lyrics or the melody. For you, is it always one or the other, or does it change?
it's interesting. So for me, I think I'll like mess around on the guitar usually, maybe on the computer, just like putting a beat together, and then I would say it's the melody. Like I have some melody in my head from what I'm playing on the guitar, and then I will take that and I'll just put filler words because I want to get like something going. And usually success is hinges on like, do those filler words that just come out in that moment, um, do they feel right, or are they good? And if that's usually what helps me like feel good about continuing to develop the song is like, okay, I feel like I have one phrase or like one something that's worth kind of picking up, and it makes me feel good enough about the project to like keep pushing it forward. So it's some sort of combination. I feel like the melody comes first, but if the lyrics aren't something that I feel like even like mildly excited about, it's hard for the song to live on. So it's almost like they both need to be born at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, though that's, there's always exceptions to that.
That's cool. Yeah, I notice a lot of your songs have some like central metaphor or concept. Like most recently, you have the Paper Clips song, which has some fun imagery in it, or like before you had one about eczema.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
love object that you can't seem to get rid of.
Yeah. Yeah. That one was yeah, it's something Alex and I shared, or we picked up together. He was big on doing that too, and I thought it's just like a fun device. I personally just love like the corniest like love or sad songs ever, like from whatever the 60s, and that's my personal taste, and I feel like it's hard to write lyrics like that direct and blunt, like I'll love you forever, today.
Mhm.
So I just shroud it behind some sort of metaphor that makes it a little less like on the nose. But at the end of the day, I think that's what I really want to say is like just like whatever, like this very pure feeling of like happiness, whatever it is. I'll also say for like paper clips, for example, actually this most recent project that I've been doing, I was kind of it's interesting you asked the question about the lyrics versus the melody. I was in a bit of not a rut, but I was actually maybe the opposite of a rut. I was just feeling very like playful and excited to write, and but I was feeling like if I just kind of like come up with something off the top of my head, I write similar things, or the lyrics might be kind of generic and not like specific. And I feel like the songs are successful for me when I feel like there's some specific angle that helps me kind of like push through it. So I I'd also just moved to New York at the time. It was like 2 years ago now. Um, and I was meeting tons of people, and it was a sort of icebreaker I was doing, or it was first with just friends that I had. I was just like, hey, if you give me a topic to write a song about, I'll write that song. And that helped me feel free in a lot of ways. I think freedom is a big part of the creativity process, and it just made me feel like, okay, I'm just gonna write the song. Paper Clips was one of the suggestions that actually came from Alex, and
Mhm.
I'm just gonna write it. If it's good, that's great. If it's bad, it doesn't matter. It's just like a thing that I'm trying. And most of the songs kind of came from one of those prompts. There's a song like Little Godzilla that came out last year that also was one of the prompts that I like talked to a friend about in at like a at her birthday party or something like that. So that was like a little fun route into some of those like metaphors or some of those um, images that I feature in the songs.
Oh, I love that. Because yeah, sometimes when you're faced with a blank canvas and you can do anything ever, then it makes it so much more difficult, right? But when you have a
Exactly.
direction, yeah, that's
Yeah, the limitation. is is freedom. So, and it was fun. It lowered the stakes too. I think like when I have a melody I really like, I can get precious with it. It's like, okay, this one needs to like be the song because I love it and I need people to like love it as much as I do. And then it's hard to write like even a single lyric when you're like that precious about the
Mhm.
thing. So there were some songs in there that like great beat, great rhythms and melody ideas that just didn't make it because, and I think like just being okay with that is part of the like, I don't know, I've been trying to access like this abundance mindset. It's like it's okay. Like you'll write another song and there'll be another song that will be like another melody that you'll like. Like it's not doesn't have to be this one. And just like that helped unlock something.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I can imagine because I might make a lot of sketches, but only some of them end up as finished pieces. So I guess it's kind of the same when you're writing music. Like, how much do you think of all the music you make, like how many tracks become finished? Is there a certain ratio, would you say, or?
You know, I was just like clearing out my phone from like voice memos, and not all of them are song ideas, but you know, there's something like 300 or something, just
Mm,
like random voice memos.
wow.
And not all of the, yeah, again, not all of them are like, there's not 300 ideas, but you know, maybe there's 100 ideas in there. And some of them make it, some of them I forgot, you know. So who knows? It's a small percentage ish. But uh, but yeah, I think it's like it all kind of works out in the end.
Oh, totally. Yeah, and going back to your idea about like pure emotion and putting that into the song, yeah, I do feel like sometimes music, like modern music or just modern culture, can feel like kind of too cool for school. You know, like yeah, like
Yeah.
people kind of play down emotion or whatever. So yeah, is that one of the reasons you like the nostalgic music? Did you grow up with it, or what kind of artists would you model
Yeah.
your
I
style
think I
on?
did grow up with it. Like I really liked um, you know, the Beach Boys is like a big influence and like that sort of summer. When you hear them, I feel like there's some complexity to it, but the songs I like um, are just kind of very summery and sweet and melodic, maybe a little wistful, like all the things that I like can't help but put into my own music.
Mm,
Um, I had this huge Beatles phase in high school, but you know, people talk about the Beatles as like this uh really experimental and all that they have this sort of experimental phase in like the second half of their discography, but what I find myself gravitating towards is just like that really simple pop, sweet, sweet melodies. So that's just something that has been, I don't know, maybe something that's held on. I think growing up, I liked a lot of just singer-songwritery stuff. And then I thought like the indie scene growing up was like it was cool. They were using like different types of sounds, like and vibes, but I think at the end of the day, I always just liked a melody, like just like a nice melody that's sweet and catchy and you know maybe has like a taste of like sadness, but like a sweet sadness, you know. Um, that's always appealed to me. I think another factor is, you know, maybe just, you know, my parents are they were born in Vietnam and they didn't have it on too much, but they have there's this feature or there's this entertainment production called Paris by Night that like every Vietnamese household has a
mm,
few discs of. And I think this era of Vietnamese music, I think it's like around the 70s, maybe 60s to 80s. I don't exactly know. Um, it's a very longing type of sound. It uses some of these like Western influences like ballads, but it's just over the top, like yeah, over the top longing, over the top love, or I can't be without you. It's just like and I think those those melodies like kind of seeped into the subconscious at some point and have influenced everything from there.
Mhm. Oh, that's so fun. And I can imagine that kind of music is the hardest to write in a way because it's so simple. Like you say, if it's all around the melody, then you can't hide behind any fancy instrumentation or effects.
Yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, it's is there a song there? And Yeah, I think I just like I tell that to people all the time. I'm like, I just like songs. Like, and what I mean melodies and I mean like harmonies to some extent, but just like a nice that's what makes a song to me, not
Mhm.
the production of it. Though I sometimes, I'm not free of using production as like a as a supplement or maybe I try not to use it as like a mask for like the fact that there's no song underneath it, but that's kind of my goal when I write.
Totally. Yeah, and I'm curious now, did your style or change since you moved away from California? Because like you said, like the Beach Boys and that style is very California coded.
Yeah, it totally is.
Like
Yeah.
your aesthetic at all?
That's an interesting question. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I think I think it's starting to evolve a little, like slowly. I feel the songs that are being released right now, I wrote over the course of like the last, I wrote like most of them were written like 1.5 or 2 years ago. So I think they were still like fresh off of I was still me and like it was still I just moved away from California.
Mhm.
Um, but there's something I think it's starting to take a little bit more. I have a song coming out that I'm pretty excited about that's much more stripped and it's sort of acoustic and it's a very pure thing. It's just like this straight up breakup song and I wrote it in this like, pretty raw emotional state and
Mhm.
I'm proud of like just that I didn't there's a little metaphorical stuff in there, but I didn't hide too much, and it's just um yeah, it's almost folky or I don't know what it is, but that's not beachy and I'm excited to kind of like share that part of myself
Mhm.
with other people when that song comes out. So I think maybe a little bit, but there's some things that I just that will be with me forever, I think, in terms of that sound.
Mhm. Oh, nice. And have you performed much live?
Yeah, the live performance was interesting because I released my first album or EP in COVID, so it was like not too many opportunities there, and we actually did like a few like live streams with people who were just living in my house, and that was like exciting, but it didn't feel like quite like live. I did one show before I left California, and that was like a really exciting thing to put together. But then when I got to New York, I made a more dedicated push to perform live. So since I've gotten here, I think I've done, maybe maybe six shows, maybe a little less. I don't know, somewhere around six. So it's been a much more regular thing, and it's been much more. The first one was really exciting. It has its ups and downs. Like some shows go well, some shows I feel like don't go as well. So it's been a lot more. It's been a lot more like performing live in a new city as well. It's been its own little adventure, like the live performance piece of it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. Good for you putting yourself out there.
Thank
Do you
you.
have regular musicians that you work with? Mainly your friend Alex, or
Yeah, Alex is still probably my closest collaborator. He does a lot of the post processing of the music. So he's like mixing and he does some production work and he'll master it as well before it goes out. There's my band here, which is a few close friends, some folks that I found that I've met over the course of my stay here. So we'll collaborate mostly on like the live stuff. I think a lot of the stuff that's recorded has been, kind of baked. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but there is some collaboration. My friend Ryan, who lives here, he's, we've been close. He moved from California as well. He plays bass, he plays violin, and he has a lot of ideas, especially yeah, that we bounce off of each other, that I bounce off of him every now and then. So it's been, yeah, the collaboration has kind of has gone and come and gone in that way. But I definitely am excited about potentially making more like direct music connections and maybe co-writing things. I've always been interested in like I personally love songs with female vocalists and when I write I'm just like I feel limited by my own like
Mhm.
my own voice. I like my voice, but there's certain types of sounds that I think are really beautiful when there's a female vocalist. And so it's like something I wanted to experiment with, but I haven't had the time to figure out.
Mm. Yeah, I can imagine it could expand your sound to have, like, male-female harmonies and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Mhm, that'd be fun. Yeah, what's you mentioned, like, the parts you enjoy about collaborating, is there anything that's more difficult about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the difficult piece is even accessing the creative part of yourself is hard enough alone, and so to access it with another person is like, I already like sometimes I feel like I'm pulling my own teeth to like kind of allow myself to feel, free. I use that word a lot, but just feel safe and comfortable to create something. And then when someone else is in the room, it's definitely scary to be like, oh, this is my idea, and trust that they're not going to judge that idea, and trust that they're gonna try something new. And then maybe maybe it's hard for on both sides to like feel. It takes a lot of trust, I think. And it's even when I'm working alone, it's kind of hit or miss if I'm gonna have a good day or a bad day. And so it's hard to like when you work with someone else, you kind of have to accept the types of day that both of you are gonna have, um, and see what's possible from there. So that's been one of the challenges. I think that's probably why I've done a lot of stuff, more solo in the last like, you know, period, but it's definitely an area I would want to grow.
Mm, mhm, I can imagine. Yeah, and how is it finding, time to make art and music, like, with a full-time job?
Yeah, that's been a struggle for sure. Especially with this release stuff. I think I've been I decided I was going to commit to really giving the release a chance to breathe, and like a lot of the work these days is not just making the stuff, but letting people know that it exists, and there's a lot of channels with which you can do that. And I sometimes oscillate between how much I enjoy that part of the work, but it's work, and but it's towards something that matters to me, which is like sharing something that's important to me. Um, so that's been a lot of the time, I think. Like, you have to I enjoy making video content. I like, this sort of release schedule. There's like trying to submit things to playlists, like all that stuff is part of the modern music industry. So I feel like it's been hard to carve out time to create. I've been able to just kind of like pick up the guitar and just like mess around, but having formal like writing time, I don't know if it's like how I haven't figured out the balance of like working that into the marketing piece, or and the sometimes the live performance piece can be its own. You have to rehearse, and it's not exactly a creative. It's a different type of creative mode. And then there's the full-time job and the other things in life that I want to do.
Mhm.
And that's just the challenge of living, I guess.
Totally, yeah. I can relate a bit because for my art and craft fairs, marketing the craft fairs and yeah, as you say, making sure everyone knows about what you do is like a different kind of creativity from actually making the thing, and both
Yeah,
can be taxing in their own way. So yeah, finding time just for yourself too, on top of all
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's a very sacred time. It kind of has to be uninterrupted in a lot of ways. It has to be sort of. I find it hard to just schedule it. I can't just be like, okay, I have 30 minutes to like. Sometimes that works, but it's not really. I like having days, and days are harder to come by, like nowadays. So
Mm.
I don't know how that will work. Something I'll have to think about.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I mean, I wrote my whole Pomona thesis about inspiration, and it's still the basic like, the theme of it was that it's still, like, capricious, basically. So,
Yeah,
like, Coleridge had all these metaphors for inspiration, like whether it's the wind through the lyre or, lightning strike or whatever. But yeah, you're right, it hits in different ways at different times, but like you say, like, yeah,
yeah,
finding the time is one thing, but also, like, yeah, letting yourself feel safe and then, yeah, trusting that it'll come back even when life
yeah,
'cause like you said, that why is so crucial.
yeah, yeah. And it's like it's not something that's the same every day, or that I feel as strongly day to
Mm,
day. Some days I feel really strongly like, yep, this is I need to. pause everything and I need to go write this down or I need to go like do this. And some days it's more like, oh yeah, this is like a fun thing that I do. And um, I don't know, it's hard to balance.
Mm.
The other thing, the poetry seminar I took at in Claremont, like while we were in the semester, the professor was like, "Hey, for this semester, you are a poet. So what do poets do? They write every day. It doesn't matter. Like they don't just wait for inspiration to strike." And I don't know. I think about that sometimes, and like, oh, I'm not necessarily living up to that. Maybe it's always on my goal. Like, can we just write a little bit or do a little creative thing every day? Much easier to say than to do.
Yeah, they say it's like a muscle
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, cool. Yeah. What else did I want to ask? Yeah, I guess more about the music industry, like you mentioned like trying to get onto playlists, and I haven't heard much about how that happens behind the scenes. Like, is there anything about, distributing your music that might surprise people?
Well, yeah, there's a sort of it's interesting. They say that it's gotten a lot more horizontal, like with streaming services and anyone can just release anything and it's much I think before it used to be a lot more about maybe connections or something like that. I still haven't mastered the industry and I don't know if that's we're working figuring it out, but yeah, there's an interesting like little life cycle. I think people really like they say it's important to really not just release, but get the most out of the release. And there's a lot of different things you can do to ensure that. One of them being uh, submitting to playlists. So there's these platforms where you can sometimes they're paid. They're usually paid, I think, and you can submit to curators and they'll listen to your song, give you feedback, and decide if they want to add it to their playlist or not. I think that's like a big. It's fun sometimes just to like be on a playlist. You get to see what other artists are doing and so that's like one work stream and then the other has been I think a big part of the game now is just like running ads and trying to get the word out there. So I've been trying to make video content and make things that are like ad friendly and just running some of those and seeing how that goes. And so far it's been I don't know, it's hard to measure success, but people are listening to it. I think the consistency of the releasing not just like once a year or something like that, but
Mm.
multiple times throughout the year. And right now I'm on this schedule of like every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks is important too. So yeah, they say consistency and just sort of like putting it out there and like these ads and playlist channels. That's what they tell me at least. Who knows? I think there's an element of mystery to this whole thing too, which is going to be can be daunting, but also just not in our control.
Mm. Right, but that's really cool. I mentioned that takes a lot of effort and planning, so good for you working.
Yeah, yeah. There's a spreadsheet out there, and there's targets and all this stuff. Yeah, budgets, everything like that, all that stuff.
Well, you have a naturally good sense of humor, so I feel like you would make some fun
Yeah, well, yeah. That, I hope so. Thank you. I appreciate that.
videos. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I had. Was there anything you wanted to add about your, yeah, process, music, anything you
Uh,
wanna plug?
hmm. Yeah, I guess I'll add. I'd be curious your perspective on this too.
Mm.
One thing that I've really struggled with before I decided to do this release cycle was what what exactly is it's interesting like it's this sort of like existential question around like what is the point. Okay, I know what the point of music is or what the point of art is. I'll always know the point of that, which is just it's this really cool thing we can do and a way we can express ourselves. And it's just like a beautiful thing. Like it's human, it's beautiful. Like okay, all those things kind of are understood throughout the eons. I think what I haven't always found a great answer to is just like what's the point of sharing it? And I've asked all of my friends like wait, okay, like I have all these songs, I like them. I think the people around me like them, but like why should I why should I share them? Like what exactly do we get out of that? And I think there's a I've been trying to find an answer that like resonates with me. And I think there's something human, there's something social about art. Like sharing is social. It means that like I'm using it as a means of connecting with another person. I think it can be hard with music when you're releasing it on a platform. People are streaming it. You don't know if they listened to it, if they liked it, if they'd sit. You may only get you get very like low signal, right? It's not maybe like other types of social connection where I get immediate feedback, like a conversation, for example. Um, so it's like it's been kind of hard, but I think there's some answer around like it brings it to life. It proves that it exists. It's a core part of it being like sort of human is that it's shared and that it exists outside of your own head or something like that, or outside of your own hard drive. But I haven't, I don't know. It's been something that's been tricky, and but I think there's something interesting at the other side of the question line. So I don't know. That's just been part of the process as well. I'd be curious if you have any take
Mm.
on that. I know you have your own work and that you bring and you present at fairs and stuff like that, and how you think about that, if you do.
Oh, huh, that's very deep. I guess in the context of music, I guess I think of it as like it's pretty neat that you get to like record something that'll be experienced. Well, not experienced in the same way, but like people can play it back many times over.
Hmm.
And so it's like existing as a part of their life. Like
Yeah.
it's in their lifespan and it could be in many people's like timelines simultaneously,
Hmm.
I think is
That's
really.
true.
And then the fact
It's a
that you may not have physical recordings out, but say imagine like if you put it on vinyl or a CD or something, like someone could pick that up like decades down the road, the same way you listen to the Beach Boys and Beatles recordings.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It's like a different type of in a way I'm sort of connecting with them. I guess that's it's the same with like writing a book or whatever, right? You're sort of connecting with someone in an abstracted way. It's like part of myself, but in the form of this file or this, you know, physical CD or vinyl or whatever. And the other person, the other side is like a human. It's
Mhm.
just it's been interesting. People have been very kind, like yourself
Mhm.
included, just been like, hey, this song's amazing, like the song is great. And um, I read those messages and it does make me happy, but it feels like something's lost in just like the message. Like I wish we could listen to it together or we could experience it together somehow. And I guess that's what the shows are, but even the
Mhm.
shows are tough because I'm up there and I'm just like doing my part. It's like dark and it's like hard to see sometimes. Um,
Mhm.
but anyways, I think it's an interesting, I don't know, there's something there about just like connection in general that it's a theme I'm exploring in my life outside of music as well, just like trying to figure out connection and like getting the most out of the fact that we all live here together.
Totally, yeah, that's really neat. You're right. I guess it is a connection and a conversation in a way, maybe more one-sided or unequal compared to like we're talking just now. But
Yeah.
think it's also really cool about art that you make something perhaps with a specific intention in mind or a certain style, but then people can receive it differently and then have their own interpretations. And hearing those can be fun too. Like sometimes people will tell me my art feels very calm, like my landscapes, the colors I choose. And that's not something I necessarily intended going into it, but I guess maybe something about my calm mood as I'm creating is transmitted into the piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that
Yeah.
I've thought of. It's interesting.
Yeah. It's like our consciousness as the creator is only it's limited in like what we convey in the thing. It's like I have my intention and it's but there's a lot of decisions I made that were not necessarily like just like I made every detail like I mean you strive for that, but who knows? Once it's out there, who knows what was sent out and what's received. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, you keep making new things and your style keeps evolving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
neat. Yeah, anything else?
Um, no, I'm sure I could talk for hours and hours about this
Mm,
process and all of that. But yeah, I feel like thank you so much for like the really thoughtful questions. I feel like you touched on a lot of the things that um I forget sometimes, but I do think about a lot and that I like to that are yeah, it's like sort of uncovering. parts of my journey that maybe I take for granted sometimes. So I
Mm.
appreciate you giving me the opportunity to like voice it and to share.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for your time and for your honest reflections too. Like, it's been really neat seeing your To Me brand grow on Instagram for the last few years. And yeah, I'm really excited for you and happy to see what's next. Where can the people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Toomi with five eyes and two underscore TOOM, five eyes, two underscores. And then TOOMIs on all the streaming services as well. So I should be on there, and I think that's most of the places. Probably the two most prominent places you can find me.
Mm, fantastic. I'll put the links in the Substack post as well.
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, I'll just stop the recording now and then we'll.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.